All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm here with Dori Yona, who is the founder of SimpleClosure. Um, SimpleClosure is one of our sponsors at Legal Innovators California for a second year now. And I would like to pass the opportunity for Dori to introduce himself and the company to our viewers and listeners, and then most importantly, to our attendees that will be coming to Legal Innovators. Over to you, Dori.
Thanks for having me, Timo. Appreciate it. Super excited actually to come back for a second year. We had a great conference last year. I think it was a really good combination of in-house and external law firms. We obviously are working more closely with external law firms, so it was really a great event. Simple Closure, happy to share a bit about us. We are a venture-backed legal tech company. We have built a platform to streamline and automate the shutdown process for companies. So it's one of those things that a lot of times people don't stop to think about. But in reality, our economy, or in general, most economies, there's a high turnover of companies. Companies start, companies shut down. For those that aren't aware, uh, in the tech world, at least 93% of startups fail. Every year in the US, between 700,000 to a million companies shut down. And the process to shut down a company is a manual, bureaucratic, opaque process. Uh, Founders hate it, investors hate it, lawyers hate it, accountants hate it. And our goal is to create the easiest and most trustworthy way to shut down a company. And so that's a bit about Simple Closure.
So, I would say a much needed tool for anyone that's part of the process. I have had the experience of closing one company. I'm in the process of closing another one, so I can very much resonate with the ethos of what you are putting forward to the world. And can you tell us a little bit more, how did your journey influence the vision and the development of the platform?
Sure. Look, I get that question quite often. Why would you start Simple Closure? Why would you start a company that helps companies shut down? And the honest truth is because I've been through it and it sucked. And it sounds like you've gone through it and are like potentially going through it again. And only people that go through it and professionals that help companies deal with this know how painful and how bureaucratic the process is. A bit of background about myself: I'm a third-time founder. My previous company, I was actually in a board meeting presenting financials to the board, and one of our board members looks at the financials and says, "Hey, Dori, the financials don't look so good. The runway looks really short. We don't think we're not going to invest any additional capital in the company, and we don't think you can raise external capital. I think we need to talk about a plan B." And I'm like, "What's a plan B?" And they're like, "We think we need to talk about potentially shutting down the business." And I said, "What do you mean? Well, that's not even an option." And they're like, "Well, it looks like it's going in that direction. So we like to see a shutdown analysis for the business." And I'm like, "What's a shutdown analysis?" And so the board actually started flooding me with a ton of questions. They asked me, you know, we'd like to see, are there severance packages that we need to set aside for employees? Do we need to lay people off? Are there obligations to vendors? Do we need to get out of our office lease? Is there revenue we need to collect? They started flooding me with a ton of questions. And the honest truth is I didn't have answers to any of those questions. And so I told the board I would do some homework and follow up with them. And so I went home that evening from the board meeting, probably at one of the lowest points in my company career, stressed out of my mind, knowing that I had to get back to the board with answers. Um, and so I just kind of, first thing I did is I went and Googled, how do you shut down a startup? And I was hoping to find, a product or a company or a service or something to help me. The closest thing I found was a blog post from a boutique law firm that was probably 20 years old, nothing I could really rely on or trust. And so then the next thing I naturally did is I said to myself, let's go talk to other founders that have been through this process. Let's pick their brain. Let's understand who they worked with, the do's and don'ts. And so I started going through my LinkedIn, looking for founders in my network that had shut down their company. And after spending a few hours and not finding anyone, I realized really quickly that it wasn't that there wasn't anyone in my network that had shut down. It just no one likes to write about it on LinkedIn. Shutting down is a taboo topic. Founders are ashamed of it, and they don't want to talk about it. And so that didn't help. And then honestly, the last thing I did is actually went to our lawyer. We're using a top tier Silicon Valley tech law firm for previous years. And I reached out to our lawyer and our CPA and asked for help. And they didn't even want to help us. They said they're happy to refer us elsewhere, but it's not really their bread and butter. And so I ended up digging and really diving into the world of shutting down. I started to understand the differences between an ABC and a bankruptcy and a dissolution and a wind down and all the moving parts. I started to, speak to other founders and realize that it's actually a really, really big problem and pain point. And actually realize that there's, a million or so companies that shut down every year in the US, and it's a really, really big problem. Um, and after kind of going through that experience myself, feeling it firsthand, speaking to so many other founders eventually that told me about their horror stories, uh, we decided we wanted to solve it. It made no sense to us that the process was so difficult and so painful, and also so large in scale in terms of the U.S. economy, that we decided we want to build a solution for it. And obviously, that's influenced kind of our whole decision-making process and the strategy for the company and how we've built the product. We've been through it. We've experienced that pain. We've been there before. We know what it feels like. And so we're obviously building a company to solve that pain point. I think you're on mute, Timo.
Sorry. You mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that you mostly work with law firms. And my assumption to that statement is that you get a lot of referral work from those law firms. And was that based on what happened with you back then when you went to that law firm and they told you, hey, it's not something that we can help with, but here is a firm that can go. So is the end user of SimpleClosure that um, that director or founder, or is the product something that's utilized within those law firms to actually assist with that process?
Yeah, great question. So when we actually started the business, I was sure that law firms would be competitors of ours. I thought that, we would be competing on business and that this is something that they used to do and that we would be kind of taking their business and they would be upset. One of the most astonishing things to me has been around like one of the biggest learnings that actually lawyers and law firms love this solution. The best comparable I have is like lawyers used to do cap tables and manage cap tables manually. And then Carta came along, and today Carta is embraced by like almost every tech company, Carta or Pulley at least, are embraced by almost every tech company, and law firm as well. And today, like lawyers are happy to onboard customers in Carta versus, managing the cap table by Excel. I think that, law firms realize that they're very, very strapped on time, lawyers and law firms, and they want to make sure that they invest their time in the high impact things. Managing cap table, there's great software for that. Shutting down a business, I'm not sure that that's the high impact thing that's going to make a difference. I think that they want to be spending their time on like the high growth clients, helping them negotiate strategic things. And so, uh, our end customer today on the platform is the founder, or the board member, the founder that's actually shutting down. But through the process of using our platform, we have a lot of lawyers that are referring customers to us. So it's more of a referral relationship. But we've been getting more and more requests from law firms and lawyers to be able to collaborate on our platform, similar to Carta. So if you think about Carta, also a founder has uh, uh, the product in terms of like they have the access, they're managing it, but they're allowing their lawyers, if needed, to also kind of, collaborate on the platform. So I think we're going more and more towards the direction of collaboration with, like your lawyers. But today at its core, most of the usage is done by lawyers referring founders directly to our platform. And we work really closely with some of the top law firms in the Silicon Valley, Gunderson and Goodwin and Fenwick and Cooley, and Latham, and, the list goes on. But we've been working really closely with them on more of a partnership.
And you just closed the funding round, which is being confirmed, I believe, yesterday. It's a Series A funding round of 15 million US dollars. Congratulations on that. You did mention um, Carta, and I believe I saw that they're one of your investors, if I'm not mistaken. And does that mean that there is also some collaborative, and you can disclose as little or as much as you would like, but does that mean that there is some collaboration that is happening now between you and them guys as well?
Yeah, great question. Yes, we announced it yesterday, our 15 million Series A. Carta has joined the company as an investor on the cap table. So we're super grateful. I think that the investment started from a relationship, actually. So we have been, for the last 6 months or so, been powering Carta Dissolution. So if they have customers that are looking to dissolve or shut down, Carta recommends those customers to use SimpleClosure. It's also on their website, so it's not private or anything. You can go and Google Carta Dissolution, and SimpleClosure will come there as their suggestion. And so we've had a really strong relationship and partnership with them, and I think we're both helping customers in the same ecosystem. They are helping on one side, and we are helping on the other. And I think it was just a natural partnership and collaboration. We've been, really fortunate to work with great people at Carta, and I hope that they saw the same. And so, yeah, it kind of solidified the relationship even more when they invested as well.
Is most of the companies that you guys tend to service ones that have raised capital? Is that when the solution tends to be most required? Would you say, like, are there more complexities in situation like this?
Great question. So obviously, the more complications the company has, the more we can support with our kind of product. The way I think I would look at it is we kind of have our enterprise product, which is, we don't call it an enterprise product, but our core product, which is for companies that are venture backed, raised capital, have investors, have employees in different states. Like, that's our bread and butter, and that's what we focus on. Obviously, as we continue to grow the business and expand, we have companies of different segments and different sizes and different verticals coming to us. We're very flexible and accommodating in terms of, like, our platform is built to serve the customer in the way that they need that services. So our platform and its features look different for the types of use cases. Obviously, the pricing looks different for the type of use cases. But we talk about that million number. That's a really big number of companies shutting down, and our goal is to long term serve the entire ecosystem and be the TurboTax of shutting down. And so the only way to do it is by building a platform that is flexible to be able to handle companies of different sizes. But historically, yes, I would say, like, we've been very, very much focused on, like, the venture-backed startup ecosystem.
I met last June. I asked you at the time, is this solution that is currently only operating in the United States? And you said yes. Has this changed? And if not, will it change now that you've got that additional financial backing?
Great question. So I'll just say caveat. We only focus on US entities in terms of shutting down and helping them dissolve. The caveat is we do have customers that are international customers, even UK companies, companies out of Tel Aviv, companies out of, Asia, that had a presence of a U.S. entity. So they might have, the top co is in Europe, but there's a subsidiary in the U.S., or the top co is in the U.S. and there's a subsidiary in Europe. We do help those companies with their U.S. entities. We don't do the international stuff. That's where they use typically their lawyers that are based internationally, but we do help with the U.S. entity. So I just want to say that caveat. And in terms of expanding to actually shutting down entities internationally, it's not something we're planning on focusing right now. Like I said, from my perspective, there's a million companies that are shutting down every year in the US. We have a very, very, very small fraction of that. If you look at, the volume, I think we've said this multiple times. We did, 500 or so companies last year alone. Over 500 companies last year alone. And so if you look at what that is out of the total pie, it's a very, very small sliver. And so I think, we're going to be, laser focused on nailing the US market and getting the market share that we're looking for, before, expanding too fast internationally into other areas.
You see a similar level of collaboration from some other professional services that you see from law. So, for instance, tax advisors, accountant?
Yeah, great
Yeah.
question. We're getting a lot of collaboration from VCs. So if you think about professional investors in VCs, accounting firms, we're working really closely with some of the top accounting firms in the US that serve the startup ecosystem. Those are and other companies like payroll providers and corporation companies. So we're partners of Stripe Atlas, for example. When it comes to Dissolution, we partner with Gusto when it comes to payroll and shutting down, helping those companies that use Gusto. So we're really kind of continuing to expand our footprint, and um, I think we're creating a category here, and our goal is to be a category defining company from that perspective. So we're continuing to focus on those components.
And for our viewers and also the people that who come to Legal Innovators California, if you are a service provider or a solution provider, like being a law firm or a tax advisory or whatnot, if they are interested in working with you, what a standard relationship between them and SimpleClosure looks like?
Yeah, it's a great question. Every relationship, honestly, is a bit different. Some of them are pure referrals. Some of them are more product embedded. Some of them we can work to uh, give our partners the ability to onboard customers to our platform. So there's different ways of doing that. And so at a high level, I think my message is if you are a service provider, either lawyer or accounting firm that have customers that are, go through shutdowns, and if you're serving the SMB or venture space, you probably have, because statistically, most startups and most companies fail. Then, we'd love to chat. We'd love to see if we can work together. We do things anywhere from lunch and learns on education all the way to like full on integrations. And so we're happy to, meet with service providers and partners that are interested in chatting and supporting them. Like I said, I think ultimately this is not something that service providers we've learned that they want to deal with. It's not the best use of their time. It's not usually economical. And ultimately, we want to give these customers, these founders, the best experience possible at one of the shittiest times that they're going through. And so I think ultimately SimpleClosure gives that, high level of service, technology enabled platform, and gives founders and entrepreneurs the peace of mind to move on to whatever's next. And that's ultimately like what drives us. It's not about shutting down companies. It's how do we get these founders and entrepreneurs back into the ecosystem? How do we get them going out and starting their next company and raising their next round? And it's actually interesting because I think like last we checked, 60 to 70% of the founders on our platform, while shutting down, they're already working on their next thing. And if they're working on the next thing, that means if they had a great experience at the end, they can go to their next thing quicker. They can start their next company. They can raise capital, their pre-seed for the next company, and then work with you as a service provider, as a law firm again. And so I think that's ultimately, where all incentives are aligned. We help, founders get back on their feet and ultimately drive more business back to our partners.
And that leads greatly into my next question, which is where do you see SimpleClosure in 5 years? Will you remain focused on shutdown, or do you also envision an expansion into other aspects of startup lifecycle management?
Yeah, great question. So we're very laser focused right now on the core near term vision, which is how do we become the TurboTax of shutting down, right? How do we get to market shares of hundreds of thousands of shutdowns a year? And that's a big, accomplishment or obstacle in itself. And so we're very, very much laser focused on that. But I think that some of the things that we continue to think about is as a company is, we're helping now with the legal and accounting and bureaucratical, process of shutting down a company. But we spend a lot of time with founders and we try to understand what else are you struggling with at the end of the line when you're shutting down a company? What other pain points do you have? What other opportunities are there when a company is going to shut down? I think as we continue to grow our core business, we're going to continue to think about what are the things that we can build and invest in that help founders at this moment of time beyond just the legal and bureaucratical part of things, but what other value can we drive to them at this moment of time where they are in their journey? And so that's ultimately, how I think about it. And, we want to drive as positive an outcome as possible for founders during this painful time.
Just to wrap up, what can attendees expect from your 10-minute pitch this year? And what is the key message that you're hoping that they'll take away?
Yeah, great question. I don't want to give out surprises, so I guess they'll have to come to see. But I think I always try to, whenever I speak to a group of people, I one try to, keep it interesting and exciting, and second, um, for them to learn something that they didn't know. So from my perspective, if they come to the session and they learn something new, I think that's worth it. And so I'll hopefully make sure that there's enough content there so that everyone that came at least learned one thing new.
Thank you, Dori, for your time. I look forward to having you and the rest of the team just over a month from now. And again, congratulations on continuing building what, in my opinion, is a much needed solution. Hopefully, not just for the United States, but beyond as well. So,
Thank you. Looking forward to it, Timo.